Perfect. All right. Osio, Nigada, Tiladu Daguto, Chichalaki, Ale, Aniwadi, Tiki Yawi. Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. James Wagnon. Everyone calls me Dr. JJ. I am the Senior Program Officer for Scholarships and Internships here at AISES, a part of the Student Success Team. And this is a part of our webinar series where we're giving you insights, tips, all the above for the scholarships to make sure that you're strong in that sense. So, yeah, and this is hosted by yours truly, the Student Success Team. So, we'll go ahead and jump right in. So, providing you a little bit of overview, I'll cover when and why you need a letter, because I think it's very important, who to ask for a letter, how do you make that request in the first place. We'll look at examples of what makes a strong letter in general, and then we'll talk about some of the follow-up and thanking your recommenders, as well as Q&A for any lingering questions. So when and why you need a letter. So ACES requires every scholarship that we to have two letters of recommendation. So it doesn't matter which of our scholarships you apply for, all scholarships require two letters of recommendation. And they're really there to strengthen your application. I think oftentimes we kind of get into this notion or get caught up in strictly with GPA, which, GPA, cool, great, awesome, but it's not something I think we want to solely base quote unquote success off of. And so I think that's one of the strengths of where letters of rec kind of come into play. So if uh, maybe you're not as strong in the GPA realm, it would definitely help with speaking to your strengths like leadership and your community impact. It's really, I think, just going beyond numbers. So speaking to your character, your work ethic, your potential, maybe you're heavily involved in your community. And yeah, I think everyone's story is going to look very different from one another. And so, really, how do we kind of draw those strengths out that you're bringing to the table out? And again, it's also required. I like to reiterate that because I think a lot of times students kind of come into this and they think, "Oh, but I had a letter recommendation," and I'm like, "You had one, but we need so we need two." So yeah, if anything on this, I could really highlight. We're not solely measuring you by your GPA. We want to look at you as an applicant overall, holistically. And one of the ways we do that is with the letter of recommendation. So, yes, two letters, highlighting strengths, going beyond GPA, character, work ethic, potential. Cool. So that's when and why you need a letter. Also, it's just good to have, I think, when you're applying to other things like internships or jobs or what have you. It's a great way to start a relationship. I'll say that. So, so who to ask for a letter? So we typically narrow or keep it very simple. Not your family or friends. I think your family and friends are going to hype you up, which we love and we want that. We want to see those things that make you strong and from people that know you very well. But specifically for our scholarships and for what we're doing, it's more so, again, back to that academic community potential aspect. So these would be people like your professors, your teachers, your mentors, who really know your work especially in the higher education realm. And again, internships, job supervisors, places that you're spending a lot of time at, and things that people can speak to. I've also seen letters, from again, community members, tribal leaders, research advisors, club sponsors, anybody I think that, yeah, that you're devoting to a lot of time to and who really can speak to those things. If it's not academic, maybe it's cultural. If it's not cultural, then maybe it is your work ethic. If it's not work ethic, there's some quality I think that everybody possesses that they're strong in that this said person could write a strong letter of rec for you. So again, we don't really, I think the only rule we might have on the website or in the applications are just they just cannot be family members or friends. Um, and then also just someone who doesn't know you very well. The funders are really looking for. people I think that are solid and for better lack of words, meaning, if it's not just GPA, can this person have impact? Is this person going to have impact? And so we really need those letters to be from somebody who can speak to those things. And again, even if it's a past employer or teacher, if it's someone that you haven't kept in touch with for a while, then probably not the best bet. I think the safest bet, though, definitely is going to be, yeah, those professors, those teachers, the people that you spend a lot of time with. So, and Dr. Crystal Lecture, I don't know if you want to add anything to this slide. If not, that's cool. Okay, we'll keep it moving. So, how do you even request a letter outright? I think the first rule that we need to go over is to be very polite, professional, and direct. I think clarity is key and kind here. So some of the things that you're gonna wanting to do or want to do is to ask in person if possible. I think it just makes it a lot more personable. Email's great. I think if that's something that you have to do, then it'll be deemed necessary. But in person, direct, face to face, honestly, is probably the best way to go. You're going to want to provide your resume. I know that AISES ourselves have templates, and we also have workshops and things like that to make sure that your resume is strong and solid. So being sure that you're including your skills, projects, certifications, essentially whatever is going to help the person that you're requesting the letter of rec from, that helps them out. And again, like those details, the deadlines, the submission details, for example, the fact that scholarships close on April 30th, 2025, shameless plug. And letters of rec, we kind of understand that there's a lot that goes into requesting, and so we make that due a week after the fact, so May 7th, 2025. So if you were going to go to somebody, again, to those professors or mentors, people that knew you, I strongly advise you to at least give them 4 weeks minimum. People are busy. People have schedules. People have lives. We're all on different schedules, and so you want to be very mindful of time, but also I think allow that person enough time to speak to those things and to adhere to, again, the deadline, the submissions, and review the material that you've given them with your resume. So, for example, unfortunately, he's not here with us tonight, but I had written this example for, if I were requesting a letter from Dr. Pula. So I would write, Dr. Pula, I hope you're doing well. I'm reaching out to ask if you would be willing to write me a letter of recommendation, for the ACES and Google Scholarship. Given our work together in class, I believe you could provide meaningful insight into my skills, leadership, and impact. The deadline submission is May 7th, 2025. I'd be happy to provide any materials that might be helpful. For example, my resume or details about the scholarship. If you're able to write the letter, please let me know and I'll send over more information. I truly appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you. So, if I were to send this to Dr. Pula, this would just give him the opportunity to say yes or no. Again, I think whoever you're asking for really has that capacity and understanding where they're at with obligations. So if they can offer the letter, they will. If they can't, no harm, no foul. We just move to the next person that can speak to those things. So, yes, if you can, in person. If you can't, email is absolutely okay. And so when we talk about, what makes a strong letter, and I'll share some examples over here, but just to kind of generalize it a little bit, I think what we're really getting at here is that there are specific examples of your achievements, of your leadership, and of your growth. I think we can talk about very vague, generic situations, circumstances, and word it in that way. So again, I have some examples, but you want it more specific, again, to kind of pull out those strengths and by somebody who knows you well. So I think this goes back to the point of it's not always about GPA. I feel like that's the number one. pressure point I get from students is they're really worried about the GPA. And I understand because we do have, criteria on the website. But if, maybe you're not so strong on there, it's your story. Can this person, highlight and really bring out those points about your story? Because everybody has a story. Everybody has strengths that they can speak to, especially if you can give them specific examples. I think that helps. And you're also scored. I probably should have included the rubric on here, but we provide our reviewers with the rubric. So you are scored based on, your quality essays, you're scored on GPA, but not, I think it's only a few points. And then as far as letter of rec is really, I would say the next bigger thing. Um, because personal essays are great, but again, can these people speak to your experiences and or qualities? So, highlighting your story, can they emphasize your story and help provide specifics with that? So, here are some examples that I've seen with scholarship essays, or I've seen it with, maybe some students that just the overall application, they were good, but it wasn't I don't want to say great. It just wasn't as impactful, I'll say. Or, maybe some of our reviewers just felt like there could have been more that was done. So, for example, right, Sarah is a good student. She attends class regularly and submits her assignments on time. That sounds good. That sounds great. Sarah sounds dependable. She sounds like she stays consistent, which is great. But then whenever you're comparing that to someone like Kyle, Kyle consistently demonstrates a strong work ethic and intellectual curiosity in my calculus course. For example, he earned one of the highest grades by not only mastering complex concepts, but he also assisted his peers in understanding these topics. So while Sarah's great and good, and I think this person probably could speak to a lot of her strengths, we're getting examples, very specific examples with Kyle. So not only are we seeing that, Kyle has a strong work ethic and the intellectual curiosity, but that's also being backed up with, well, how? How you are stating this, how and why? How are we seeing this? And so they list an example for Kyle. I think similarly, we see this with like the second example. So with David, right? David is a hard worker. He completes tasks as assigned and is responsible. Again, David sounds great. That sounds awesome. Love that David's a hard worker. Love that he can complete tasks, and is responsible and assigned. But that's not really, I think, showing David's story. That's not really showing his strengths and the impact that David has. Whereas you compare that with someone, say Jessica, who's applying for the same scholarship, Jessica's leadership was evident when she coordinated a volunteer event for over 100 students. She ensured smooth logistics and effective team collaboration. Her ability to motivate others and manage responsibilities under pressure showcases her strong leadership and organizational skills. Again, I think it's not only about stating something. Again, like with David, I'm sure he is great, and I'm sure he is a hard worker, and maybe he's strong in other, aspects of the application. But when reading Jessica's, helping over 100 students is a lot. You have to be very organized, and you have to man. I mean, you're managing that and having to work under high pressure, situations. Anyone that's ever hosted an event, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a lot. But by, I think, quantifying and getting specific with her example, we see, so to speak, that her leadership is evident and that this is someone who does have organizational skills and, works well under pressure with team dynamics. And that's great because, again, I think that speaks to the impact that Jessica has. And just kind of continuing. Um, So, for example, Emily has faced some challenges but continues to try her best. Again, I don't think it's that these aren't good per se. I think Emily sounds great. She, has faced some challenges and she tries her best. We love that for her. She's out here, trying, and that's great. But then Matthew's, letter of right gets a little bit more specific. for example. So Matthew's dedication extends beyond academics. While balancing a part-time job to support his family, he has actively remained deeply involved with his tribal community. He volunteers at cultural events, mentors younger students, and advocates for Native youth in higher education. Despite challenges, he continues to push forward, demonstrating resilience, leadership, and a commitment to serving others. And I think, again, with Emily's case, I think it just probably, wasn't specific enough. I think, we understand that she's facing challenges. We understand that she's trying her best. But whenever we compare that to Matthew's example, I think it's a lot of showing. You're showing people this. Hi, Anita. Yeah, so you're doing a lot of showing. So, example, it's not just, Matthew's dedication to extends beyond academics. And I would also like to highlight that this is a student who, didn't have the best GPA. So rather than focus, I think, solely on GPA, the recommender was saying, okay, you know, we know you're probably not strong in this sense, but what can we say that does play on those strengths? And I think that seeing Matthew's involvement, seeing his impact, the advocacy, and I think despite the challenges, he's still balancing everything with his part-time job and supporting his family while also supporting his community. I think that's showing a lot of resilience and leadership and commitment. And I think that helps makes it impactful. So again, not that Emily's isn't great. I'm sure it is. She's a great person, tremendous. But yeah, I think Matthews just demonstrates a little bit more of that impact aspect of it. Right. So, I think one of the last things that or something that we talk about is like the follow-up and thanking recommenders. So on the Oasis portal, when you decide who is going to write your letter of recommendation, you are able to notify them. I think it's like every 24 hours until the deadline. Again, May 7th, 2025. You're able to notify them, send them reminders, messages, those things, and you can until they upload. So we strongly advise you to send, friendly reminders for if they still haven't sent it in up to that deadline until then, as kind of that final check-in. Again, I would do it as just kind of a reaching out to provide any, missing details. They're needing something added to the resume to help it make it stronger. If you're worried about maybe the deadline and those things, I think just reaching out and having that communication would be really good. Or if they need help with the submission instructions, I think we're all here as part of the team to really help with any part of that for our students. And then I think, something that we speak a lot about in our department is that we don't want things to just be transactional, um, especially when we're talking about building relationships and being a little bit more intentional. So, I personally would encourage everyone to reach out and keep them updated. Could be a thank you email for even, writing it or even just a handwritten note. I know a lot of people love receiving, just thank yous. Just any way you can, I think, to express gratitude not only shows your appreciation for, them, but I think keeps the relationship strong. And you don't know if and when you need to call upon their assistance in the future. It could be for a different job, could be for a different opportunity. And definitely if it's somebody that is already speaking to your strengths, definitely could, help you in that sense as well. So yes, keep the relationship strong and share the updates and keep it going. And we went through that really quickly. But it's all right. Crystal, Nina, I don't know if you guys have anything to add or if you would like.
Just something I'll add along with what you were saying with people who know you well will usually continue to provide support and recommendations and those type of letters for you forever because I know I have used the same people that have known me, and then I've worked with them across years and years. And so whenever I want to list them, I'm like, hey, I got this thing coming up. Here's what it is. I provide all the resources so that they can have the link to read about it if they want to, and my updated resume. And then I tell them the deadline. And I also continue to say, hey, and it's due this day. And if that doesn't work anymore, let me know as soon as possible to kind of, give them time, but also remind them. So, yes, I would say these individuals will be people that you will stay connected to for your whole career.
Thank
And
you.
then I
And oh,
wanted to emphasize those examples that you showed about, like, somebody who could speak to you but really give examples. If it's somebody who's like, they're a nice person, that's just not a that's good. You probably are a nice person, but we want to hear more about you. And so that's when you want to work with people that really really know you well. And again, like Dr. JJ said, it does not have to be a teacher. It doesn't have to be a specific person, but as long as they know you well and they're not your family, then you can go ahead and ask them to write that letter for you, provide those examples. And perhaps they'd want you to read it before that gets submitted. And that allows you an opportunity to say, hey, can you talk more about that one project we worked on that I was really excited for, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're like in Girl Scouts or something, right? Your Girl Scout leader probably sticks with you for a number of years. So that's somebody who might know you well. Or if you're in a church group, there's probably people there. There's just so many opportunities. Don't think that it has to be a teacher from English class who you only had for one semester in your senior year, who really doesn't know anything about you. So yeah.
absolutely. Anita, I know you just joined, and I'd hate to put you on the spot, but
No, this is great. This is great. You know, your examples of the specifics, give a specific situation where that student was great. I think that would actually help um, the mentors who are writing these letters of recommendation as well. I remember early on in my career when I was starting to write or getting asked to write letters of recommendation, and I wouldn't be that specific, and so this helps both the student and the writer actually. So I really enjoyed that you put that in there. And Crystal, I love your examples. That it doesn't have to be a teacher, but if you have a faculty member within the school that you connect with, or that you have a good relationship with, then that's definitely someone you should ask if they know specific examples showing your skill set or your who you are as a person. Yeah, but definitely doesn't have to be. Yeah.
absolutely. And Olivia, if I mean you have any questions, I'm sure if you have questions, it probably would really help too, because maybe some other students have any other questions. So I don't again want to put you on the spot, but if there's anything that, yeah, if you have any questions, if there's anything we can do to answer or give you our advice or our tips or our experience, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for this. It was pretty awesome. So, um, I just got into grad school. I was just accepted like 2 weeks ago. Um, so like I'm trying to figure out this whole like how to get funding and stuff. Um, so how do you ask somebody for a recommendation, but for like multiple scholarships? So like how like I don't know. Yeah.
No, yeah, I think that's a great question. So for ours, one thing that we do say is that you can use, so you again, those two people that you need, you can use those same ones across the board for us, as long as you tweak the names because I know like a lot of recommenders will get specific with, naming who the scholarship committee is or, whoever's seeking. So you can use the same letters rec, especially if it's a good letter and you're just like, man, I can use this with, Google, I can use this with this scholarship, this scholarship. My personal advice would be I would just tweak, just change some names around and make it work for you in that sense. And I also think that's great about ACES scholarships is, yeah, I mean, you can have them edit and then just keep re-uploading to the different portals for the different submission sites.
Or could you, would it be appropriate to ask the person you are getting a letter of recommendation from to maybe make it a general heading, like a general to, I don't know, because I get what you're saying, Olivia. That would get kind of ASCII of you to say, hey, can you write me 10 letters with all these different people in the, the same letter, but 10 different entities. So would that be appropriate, Dr. Wagner?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Because again, it's not. I do think that's probably best, Anita, to do a general one that you can use for others. But I do know of like some students where they have that type of relationship. They do that. They do that. But yeah, I agree with Anita. I think if you can keep it general and broad, that's again speak to your strengths, you'd be able to reuse. Just as long as they came from two different recommenders. And yeah, so that's a good question. Do you have
Thank
any
you.
others? We are here for you.
No, I just found out about this webinar like 2 hours ago. So and I just signed up for ACES 2.5 hours ago.
Well,
Well,
good.
welcome.
That's good.
I know it's like,
We've
well,
got,
welcome.
Oh,
yeah,
what are
we've
you going to
got
be
tons of
studying?
So I got into UC San Diego's Scripps Institute of Oceanography. So I'm gonna be doing marine biology and conservation masters. So studying the ocean and doing
that is
policy work.
exciting.
Yeah, we just I don't know if it's for undergrads or grads, but we just came across an opportunity for individuals to go study sharks. We should send that to you. If you want to write your
Definitely.
email in the chat, we would love to share that with you. I don't know when it is or what the opportunity all entails, but just maybe since you said marine biology, maybe you want to go out and study some sharks.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, the program I'm in is a 1 year intensive. And we start in June and it's 12 months. And I think we only get like Christmas off and like New Year's and that's it. But they have us
When you
going off
start,
into like different conferences, so we can choose any conference in the world, and it's part of our tuition to go to. I also have to do a research project and a capstone project. Um, yeah, and so because I just found out 2 weeks ago, I'm like, okay, I need like $50,000
oh,
for
wow.
like 3 months. So yeah.
Yeah, the
Um,
shark internship she's speaking about is actually this year from September 15th to December 15th. Does that interfere with your schedule? I didn't hear what you said about your into it.
I can add that as part of my research program. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's very I can't think of the word right now, where I can create basically I'm creating my own master's program based on what I want to do, and then they connect me with different people and I create my own advisory board of 3 to 4 people from anywhere in the world. And then they go through and they help me create things. So my ultimate capstone is I want to create a native nonprofit teaching Western and Indigenous science for inland kids. But yeah, so thank you. I'm just rambling at this point. Sorry.
This
No, no,
is
no, no,
great.
no.
This is great.
This is again, this is what we're here for.
I have
So,
like three
okay.
pages of notes of what you guys just talked about too, by the way. I've been typing this whole time.
Love it. Even if I just
Wonderful.
reach one person, that's enough for me. Okay, so something else I'm gonna do as well. So I just dropped this in the chat, and Michael, I know you just joined us as well, but so please, if there's anything I can go back over or anything that, yeah, any questions you have, just let us know. But one thing I also did is just drop that in the chat. So that's our ACES scholarship page. So you'll see that we have 56 days and 9 hours left. Currently, those are the scholarship offers that we do have for the 2025-2026 academic year. And Olivia, I would specifically well, you can do the apply today button and it'll link you to any of the scholarships that you're eligible for. But I would definitely check out the A.T. Anderson scholarship. I would definitely check out the ACES Google scholarship because that's both for undergrad and graduates. And yeah, check out any of those. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us. And I'm glad you were able to join because again, this is only one part of the series that we're doing. And I know, and then I know it's a lot, but we don't want you all to be overwhelmed because it's already overwhelming in and of itself, and it doesn't need to be. So
Thank
I
you.
also just dropped in the chat that internship that Crystal was speaking about. It's the Bimini Shark
It's got
Scientist
a
Internship.
scholarship too.
It does, yeah, I put that in
yeah.
there as well.
The other question, well, I was going to say, does our new participant have any questions?
and if not, I can redo the entire presentation, Michael. I went through it pretty quickly, but
Yeah, can you go through it like real quick?
yeah, for sure. So yeah, essentially, I mean, one of the things I'd shared was just that you're going to need two letters of recommendation. Again, not speaking, and this will be great. This will be the recap before we we wrap it up. But two letters of rec. All of our scholarships require at least two from two different recommenders. It's not necessarily just speaking solely to the strength of your GPA, but just you, I think helps holistically as far as impacts, your strengths and leaderships. Um, I think the only rule to who to ask for a letter from, in our eyes, is it just cannot be family members or friends. We know they know you, we know they love you, but we really want to hear more so, from professors and teachers and mentors and tribal leaders or club sponsors, those people that can speak to those strengths, especially in academic settings or even in the community, would be great. That if you're going to request a letter, just remember to be polite, professional, and direct. I highly recommend to do so in person, just face to face, kind of start building that relationship versus, email. But I also understand because depending on who you ask, we're all busy, we all have our schedules. Just to be sure that you provide your resume as well that speaks to like your skills, projects, certifications, anything, again, back to that strength um, and to allow a 4 week minimum. Because again, we're all very busy, so time is of the essence. And also, the deadline is approaching. So the scholarships will close April 30th, 2025. But the letter of recs aren't due until a week after, so May 7th. 2025. And then I kind of just gave an example of requesting a letter. So, what the opportunity was, when the deadline is, and if, Dr. Pulaw could provide a letter of rec for me. And if not, no harm, no foul. Then we went into what makes a strong letter. So just being able to provide, I think, those specific examples of your growth and your story and yeah, sharing those key experiences and qualities. I kind of gave some examples. So, again, I think Sarah's great, and it's nice to hear that she's a good student and she's attending class and, she's consistent with her assignments. But then when we look at examples like Kyle's and Jessica's, It's very specific and they're giving examples and really trying to show us, how they are, um, how they have a strong work ethic or how they're, yeah, managing responsibilities and leadership and organizational skills. And so it's a showing, I think, versus again, earlier we had said Emily's great. I'm sure Emily is great and, has faced challenges, but then when you compare that to Matthew's, it's very specific. And even if it's not, I think, set on GPA per se, it's definitely highlighting a lot of Matthew's strengths in his community. Yeah, and the resilience and leadership and commitment to serving. And so when you go and submit your eligibility, and once you find the scholarships that you qualify for on the OASIS portal, you'll be able to enter, the names of the people you want to request recommendations, letters of recs from. Ideally, you do this after you've told them that you're going to request a letter of rec from them. I have had instances where they'll message me and be like, the student messaged me and what is this for? What's going on? So just be sure you're talking to your two people first before you do. And yeah, so with the Oasis portal, you'll be able to send out reminders until it closes. And we were just talking about, you don't want it to be transactional. It's not a matter of, okay, cool, you did that, great, bye. But just, I think, kind of keeping that relationship strong because Dr. Crystal Lepsher gave an example about like you don't know. You may, you're gonna be having that relationship be strong and then still utilizing them as a resource down the road throughout your studies and your career. And so yeah, just keeping them updated, handwritten emails or handwritten notes and then emails, just express gratitude, I think. And then we were doing Q&As. So that's a nice little recap. If there's anything specific, any questions that you have that we can answer,
Uh,
yeah.
so I went to Unity Nationals last year, and I was wondering because yesterday it was during a parent meeting, and she was one of the native advisors for like the entire PXU district for us. And I was wondering if I can get that from her, and it wouldn't count as like bias.
No, I don't think it would count as bias. I absolutely think you should, because that sounds like somebody who absolutely can speak to your strengths and can speak to your impact in that way. So I think that would be um, solid.
Oh, okay, that was my question. And the scholarship opportunities you put in the chat. Um, what like would I be able to apply to them or
Yeah, well, hold on. We'll switch gears. I have it, and it still works because after you've gotten your letters of rec, can everyone see this?
yeah, I can see it.
Awesome. So this will be on, again, on our aces.org/scholarship page. So after you've gotten your letters of rec, and again, there are a couple more documents on there that you'll need. So for example, this has the checklist about making sure that you're an ACES member, general applications, transcripts, etc. You'll go here to this apply today button, and this is where you'll enter your information in. It'll ask for GPA, institution, real technical stuff. So like, what's your major? What's your GPA? Where are you attending? And then that will link you to any one of these scholarships. So it's really going to be based off of the eligibility form. And the reason why is because for Accenture, for example, right, they're looking specifically for these majors, whereas with Google, it's any STEM field. So I don't know what your major is or where you're attending, but regardless of what it is, it's any STEM field. As long as it's a STEM field, you can be undergraduate, graduate, you'd still hear their eligibility. So it ranges. For example, even with IPF, that's the Indigenous Peoples Education Fund, you have to be an incoming freshman. So yeah. it just depends on what's been, set. But we have the eligibility and the things that they're looking for on our website. So definitely browse that site.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you for this. And there will be one next Thursday, I believe.
All Wednesdays in March. So we'll be back on here again next week. And next week, we're actually going over scholarship essays. So we will share exactly what's on the essay prompts, what all these funders and our partners and stakeholders are looking for, what it is that they're requesting, what makes a solid essay. And yeah,
Okay, so next Wednesday?
next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central. And then the week after that, I'll have a webinar where I walk you guys through AISES. If you're not familiar with AISES and you're not sure, that one. And then the last week or last Wednesday, we'll have a panel where you'll hear directly from scholars who are currently being funded as well as our reviewers. We wanted to bring our reviewers in to give advice as well.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Olivia, do you have a question?
Yeah, now that I looked over the things, so my GPA, my final GPA is under 3.0. I had engineering and environmental biology majors under me before I switched to oceanography. So my GPA is nowhere near 3. Like it's 2.8 something. Would I still be able to
Um,
apply to these or no?
Apply
uh,
anyway.
yeah, that's the
Most
short.
definitely. Most
That's
definitely
the
apply anyway. Your
yes.
transcript will show how hard you have worked, what you've done previous to this this GPA that you have now, and that's not a bad GPA. You know what I mean? You're still doing fabulously. So yes, most definitely apply anyway.
That's a great question. So, back to my point about how some students will count themselves out before they've even, have gone to the ringer because of a GPA. But again, stressing that we don't solely look at the GPA. They're there because, some of our partners have set criteria and stuff like that. But I have seen personally students who are like, okay, so the GPA is not going to be quote unquote competitive. So then I'm gonna, highlight every other aspect to show my strengths and my story. And I've seen it work out for quite a few students in that regard. So definitely can feel intimidating because I know in college, and that's a different time for a different discussion. The name of the game, right? It's the number game. It's the name of the game. And one of the components on how they contributed to success. But apply anyway. Apply anyway. Yeah, I do think though on the eligibility piece, just because the system is technical in that regard. So I have had some students that are like, I can't get access to this. Just let me know. I'll put my email in the chat as well. And to anyone else that watches this, just let me know. Because I think as long as we can talk, and that one's fine. As long as we can talk and as long as we can, I think strengthen all the other areas before the reviewers begin their work. Yeah, it can really help. It is not the end all be all. Now, that does not mean that if you had like a 1.0 or less that might be a little harder to might be a little harder to
Yeah, I
to
never would have
justify.
graduated.
I also wanted to mention that we do, well, JJ's great. He will handle every question you ask him. We also do some, like, towards the due date, we do drop in, kind of having an open office hours. So it's virtual, but anybody can drop in with their questions, like, oh, I tried to submit it and I forgot to do this. And so we'll do some like behind the scenes technical stuff to help you make sure that you're able to get all your pieces in. But it has to be before the deadline. So yeah, if you have questions, don't just let it simmer. Contact us and we will help you.
Okay. With that, is it better to turn in your application sooner, or does it not matter just as long as you get it in? Like, Yeah.
So sooner, yes, I think the more, but you're not going to be scored on it being sooner or it being, due at 11:59. It's the quality of what you're providing. Not, but with that, because I have students that I know will wait until that very end, get it in. A good rule of thumb is if, and also review, I think the information that you're getting, like your essays, that's going to be one of the things too. Because you don't want to wait until the very last minute to make sure everything is, where you want it to be or where it could be. So I highly encourage to start working on these things now, especially the technical stuff. Um, and the technical stuff being, those unofficial transcripts, getting your tribal affiliation documents, those letter of recs, because you're going to want to give them enough time. Just those technical things while you can focus on, I think, the quality of what you'll be submitting. So, doesn't technically matter if you get it in now, but please do not wait until April 29th and trying to submit everything. Yeah, it's very stressing and it's not fun for anybody.
Thank you. Just for the tribal affiliation, when I was filling out the AISES application just to become a member, there were three boxes. One said tribal affiliation, and it looked like all federally recognized tribes for the United States. And then they had another box, and then they had a First Nations box. I'm part of First Nations, I'm Canadian Mohawk and not American Mohawk. um, so when you say tribal affiliation, even though in the ACES application itself, they only had the federally recognized, would I still qualify for that or no?
So that, yes, and I should have updated that actually on the website. So for certain scholarships, yes, if there are students from Canada, they can apply, and those that don't. So what you'll see on the website, as soon as you like link it to the eligibility, if it's not showing up, it's probably one of the scholarships that are strictly looking at the students from the US. But that does not mean that there aren't opportunities. There are a lot on there that you'd be able to qualify for. So yes, would be my short answer. And then I think those are distinguished as well in the application too.
Okay, yeah,
So
because it's like that weird. I'm an American citizen, but my tribal affiliation is Canadian. Because yeah, the border crosses.
yeah, and then and with that as well, actually, we do ask you to upload the document. So again, when the reviewers are looking over your application, there'll be a comment section box that you can put this in actually for reviewers to be like, hey, while you're reviewing this, like take this into consideration as well. So
Good to know.
yeah, good question.
Thank you. That's everything I have now. Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, again, we'll be here every Wednesday this month. All right. Anita, Crystal, I don't know if you all have anything else to add.
I just say reach out with questions because we are here to help and we are happy to help.
I second that. This was great. This was great.
Well, we are excited. We are here to help you all. Do not flirt with that April 30th deadline. Make sure you get your stuff in before then. Yeah, and if there's anything in any way that we can help, please, please, please reach out. Again, there's enough going on anyway. I don't want anyone to be stressed out, so definitely reach out to us and we'll help you in any way. But with that, we say Dododa Gohan E. Thank you all, and until we all see you again. Take care.